good evening to you. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Linda Ogutu.
And I'm Eric Njoka. Welcome to the program.
Well, it is the 24th of June, and on this day, pressure mounts on President Uhuru Kenyatta's young government. Learning in all public schools could be paralyzed beginning tomorrow. That's why insecurity is threatening to get out of hand in northern Kenya over clan rivalries. Teachers
have announced they will begin a strike to demand the implementation of a salary deal. Betty Kyalo joins us live from the newsroom. Betty, what is at stake here?
Well, Njoka, the NAT chair, Wilson Sosion, made it very clear that teachers will not go back to school until the government fully implements the 1997 salary agreement. Well, you ask what's at stake? Well, Njoka, the education of Kenyan children in public schools is at stake. The second-term learning is also at stake. I'll be joining you in a short while to tell you what exactly transpired in regards to the teacher strike.
Thank you very much, Betty.
Betty Chal, of course, we're looking forward to that story. And from our city center studios, Rita Tinina has the latest on the conflict in Mandera. Rita, how is the situation in the troubled northern part of Kenya?
Well, Linda, in the last 24 hours, no attacks have been reported on the ground in Mandera and Wajir counties. But here in the city, some tough talk from the president to leaders from that region. I will give you all the details shortly.
Well, thank you very much, both. We begin our bulletin tonight with a planned teachers' strike that could paralyze learning in public schools. And Betty Kyalo has been following up on this development, including efforts to secure a deal. Betty, over to you.
Well, Njoka, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and together with the Teachers Service Commission, today brought in a new twist to this whole issue, citing that probably it's time that we do away with the 1997 salary agreement. And this, of course, rubbed the NAT officials in the wrong way, probably putting salt onto the injury. Well, the NAT officials were clear to say that they're not willing to go with this craft. They're not willing to craft yet another agreement, citing that probably this is a ploy by government to indeed escape on the promises that they made. Well, this is the story that I planned earlier on.
We are more than prepared this time. This is the 7th strike since 1997. And if the government cares, it better listen and act faster.
16 years later, and teachers are still enthusiastically pushing government to give them what they say is rightfully theirs. Sentiments that defy President Uhuru Kenyatta's plea to engage in dialogue rather than paralyze school operations.
Marupurupu na mishahara tuliopewa chini ya Legal Notice 534 ya 1997 hayajakamilishwa mpaka wa sasa.
An agreement that has haunted successive regimes with none able to comprehensively fulfill it. And now the Teachers Service Commission and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, in a meeting with the Parliamentary Committee on Education, wants the 1997 deal declared null and void, arguing it has been overtaken by time. Also attending the Monday morning meeting were the Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi and Treasury officials.
We want the government to pay the teachers their allowances regards to housing, 50%, regarding to medical, 20%, and paying the teachers the commuter allowances as per what we had agreed before the other strike.
NAT is demanding the payment of teachers' housing, medical and commuter allowances that total 47 billion shillings. In the push for the payments, the teachers want the government to shelve the laptop project and redirect the monies to fulfill the teachers' demands.
Kwa sasa tumeona hiyo pesa ni bilioni 53 tu, na tunaitisha bilioni 46, wakizitoa zote na waipe tume ya kuajiri walimu.
However, with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission having given a June 30th ultimatum that will see all collective bargaining agreements that will not have been fully implemented shelved, the teachers' strike seems like the last kick to make the government sing their tune. Betty Kyalo, KTN.
Betty Shallow, thank you so much for that. Of course, that story leads us to our big question tonight. And we are asking you, should the 1997 teachers' salary agreement be declared null and void? You have been following this story all through the day. Send your sonora response, of course, with a brief comment to the number 8040. We will sample some of your views at the end of this newscast. Now, let's bring in a man who we hopefully will help us to understand what's going on with this whole teachers' saga. That is Gabriel Lengoboini, the Secretary of Teacher Service Commission, is joining us from our city center studios. Thank you so much for joining us on KTN Prime. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the Teacher Service Commission, have now ruled that the 1997 agreement is obsolete and a new agreement should now be crafted. Is this fair? This is 16 years down the line. Is this fair?
Yeah, it is fair that the agreement of 1997, legal notice number 534, because it has been overtaken by legal notice number 16 of 2003. What legal notice number 534 did was to award teachers' salaries in 5 phases, but only one phase was paid out. The rest of the phases were suspended because the government could not sustain the amount of money that was supposed to be paid, paying teachers a basic salary of 200%. Then in the year 2002, December, the government met with the Kenya National Union of Teachers and came up with a memorandum of understanding. It was pledged that the remaining salary awards would be implemented come the year 2003. So in 2003, there was a legal notice number 16 that was drafted, and it said it will honor the teachers' pay awards in the remaining phases, and that came up with phased out salary payments of 10 years, which in May it was renegotiated to 6 years, and the year 2007 March it was now renegotiated to 5 years, which the government honored in July 2007. The other salaries were also amended that were awarded in the year 1997 by legal notice number 16 of 2007. And the 3 allowances that are in contention are the house allowance, which was agreed that to be paid at 50% of basic salaries in 1997, but that was amended by a circular from the Directorate of Personnel Management of 2001, which harmonized teachers' house allowances with those of civil servants. The medical allowance was also paid at a rate agreed in 3 phases in legal notice number 16 of 2003, and the government honored its part of the agreement. The commuter allowance was also paid at the fixed rates in 3 installments, and that one was also honored by the government.
All right, so you've painted the picture for us of what's going on the ground. NAT has now called for a strike that will be effective midnight tonight. Give us the solution out of this, because this is effective midnight tonight.
The solution, we've been trying to get a solution the whole day. We were called by the Committee on Education, Science and Technology. In the morning, we had the Attorney General, the Treasury, Ministry of Education, and the Teacher Service Commission. We looked at the issues being raised by the KNUT and COPET, and the contentious issues were 3 allowances that have not been honored according to the Kenya National Union of Teachers, because they say they do not recognize the existence of legal notice number 16 of 2003 that amended those 3 allowances from legal notice number 534. So the issue of house allowance, it has already been paid because it was harmonized in the year 2001. Medical allowance, the Teacher Service Commission is currently negotiating with National Health Insurance Fund, so to have all the teachers come under a medical cover from NHIF. And commuter allowance is where there's a disparity between the teachers and the civil service. And the disparity is so big that the difference is 11.5 billion Kenyan shillings. So these are the 3 allowances in contention.
All right, Gabriel Lingoiboni, Secretary, Teacher Service Commission. I'm sure this is a discussion that will go on probably from now until a solution is reached. Of course, the government is sort of aware of what's going on, and they've tried to wedge in, but the teachers, the NAT has now said that teachers will be in a strike effective midnight tonight. Eric Njoka has a new perspective really on the history of this. Eric.
That's right, and the clamor for higher pay for teachers is not new in Kenya. In fact, all presidents in the country's history have had to deal with the teachers' unions that have been fighting for teachers' rights. KTN's Asha Mwilu takes us down memory lane and highlights how successive governments have sought to handle the unending conflict.
This cartoon, published in one of the local dailies, perhaps sums up the history of the teachers' strikes in Kenya. The wars of the Kenyan teacher are deeply rooted in the country's history. The fight for higher pay gained momentum in the Moi regime, was passed on to the Kibaki regime, and now the ball has been kicked to President Uhuru Kenyatta's court. As generations of presidents and leaders from the teachers' unions came and left, teachers have been singing the same tune.
Solidarity forever! Solidarity forever!
And the clamor for higher pay quickly attracted the political class.
Last year, you negotiated Teachers' Remuneration Committee, where government was effectively represented. You reached agreement. That agreement must be honored.
The late Ambrose Adongo was the longest-serving NAT Secretary General. He perfected the art of staging nationwide strikes or threatening to do so in defense of teachers' rights. In the process, he exerted immense influence during the Nyayo era. After Adongo's death in 2001, NAT elected its third Secretary General, Francis Nganga. Nganga is remembered for his fundamental role in negotiating for the implementation of the 1997 pay deal.
We are ready to go and sign an agreement to provide for the payment of the two remaining phases. That is the key issue that is in the mind of the Kenyan teachers to date.
In 2009, the teachers breathed a huge sigh of relief after the government and the ever-striking teachers came to an agreement. Ironically, the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was the finance minister back then. Alongside the then education minister, Sam Ongeri, they put pen to paper, pledging to harmonize teachers' salaries.
I'm happy to inform Kenyans that the parties have been having informal consultations, which have culminated in a consensus over the trade dispute.
I want to give you my assurance and the assurance of the government that we will work together to see that we can improve this economy so that this money can be paid even faster than what we've agreed here.
And as fate would have it, 4 years later, this pledge is back to haunt President Uhuru's government. As the struggle for higher pay continues, students and parents countrywide are hoping that such a handshake will be witnessed soon, signaling the end of a 3-decade-long stalemate between teachers and the government. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
So there is a clamor for better pay, better remuneration from the teachers. Of course, NAT has now called for a strike that will be effective midnight. Let's take you through a pay slip, really, from the Teacher Service Commission of a graduate senior teacher. That should be on your screen full. There it is. So now, a graduate senior teacher takes home 42,877. Joka will take you through some of the allowances they're entitled to, but my focus really is on the deductions, because this is someone who earns 42,877 and ends up with a deduction of 44,615, essentially taking home 15,629. So you can imagine, if this is someone who has a family, who has children who are going to school, this is a man or a woman who has to survive on 15,629. This is part of the reason why the teachers are now calling for better pay, and this is why there is a strike effective midnight tonight.
And that is why we are calling it the pay slip of shame. I have another one here from an ordinary diploma teacher. If we can get that on screen now. We get it from Machakos. And actually, this teacher earns a basic salary of 22,000. If you add the allowances, for instance, house allowance is 3,500, medical allowance is 1,600, and commuter allowance is 1,600 as well. If you have the total earnings, this teacher gets home with 29,500. But if all the deductions are done, the teacher who is an ordinary diploma teacher, earns 13,358. Now you get the picture.
Right, the two pay slips there, making you look at it and ask, are teachers justified to demand for better pay? Of course, this is a discussion that will continue probably from now on until this can be resolved. Let's look at another issue that has been facing this country, and that is the issue of insecurity. Let's bring in Rita Tinina from our City Center studios. Rita.
Well, Linda, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, earlier in the day met leaders from Mandera and Wajir counties over the inter-clan clashes between the Digodia and Gare clans, and the President was stern in issuing a warning to the communities that are engaging in hostilities, and he had two words for the leaders. He gave them an ultimatum and a threat, saying that the leaders will have to play a leading role in efforts to ensure that peace is restored, failure to which the government will mount an all-out security operation that could have unintended consequences. Take a look.
At the Wilson Airport, a 22-year-old boy and a child yet to celebrate his second birthday are airlifted for specialized treatment at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The two are casualties of Sunday's militia attack on Chorok village in Mandera County that left at least 15 people dead and 22 others injured.
A one-year-old child was hit with a bullet that there are some shrapnels. The doctor advised we bring this person here. This one has a bullet lodged on his chest and also has multiple fractures, so they couldn't treat them at Mandera District Hospital, hence they are being brought here for a better care and referral.
To avoid a repeat of what has left these two and dozens of others nursing injuries. Leaders from Mandera and Wajir counties were at State House, Nairobi, for a meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta in the latest effort to restore peace in the troubled parts of northern Kenya. The president told the leaders to play their role in ensuring that peace is restored, but warned that failure to end hostilities between the Gare and the Godia clans will prompt the government to mount an all-out security operation whose consequences may not be intended. The president has now ordered the surrender of arms and commencement of a disarmament exercise in Mandera and Wajir counties. He is also assuring that the government will engage the Ethiopian government to ensure peaceful coexistence of communities along the Kenya-Ethiopian border. The president met the leaders in the presence of, among others, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Lenku and the Inspector General of Police David Kimayo. Kimayo had on Sunday summoned all elected leaders from Mandera and Wajir counties to record statements at the CID headquarters over the clashes, which the police say are politically instigated. Some of the leaders stand up to give their side of the story. A weekend mediation meeting by religious and political leaders imposed a 10 million shilling communal fine to be paid by the clan that will carry out an attack. Since late last year, the Gare and the Godia inter-clan wars have claimed over 70 lives, left scores injured and hundreds displaced from their homes.
The resettlement of those who have been displaced by the clashes is one of the issues that leaders from Mandera and Wajir raised with the president during the meeting. The president, after that meeting, of course, left for Kampala, Uganda, but he will no doubt be keeping his ears on the ground on that issue that is arguably the biggest security challenge of his young presidency. Eric and Linda.
Thank you very much, Rita Tinina, for that update. Let's move on now to matters politics. And Kathy Kilonzo, daughter of the late former Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo, was this afternoon unveiled to vie for the seat on a Wiper Democratic Party ticket.
Court leadership led by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga endorsed Kathy to succeed her father. Aaron Ochieng attended the court rally in Wote, where the youthful advocate was unveiled, and now reports.
The race to succeed the late Mutula Kilonzo in Makueni Senate seat is off to a competitive start, with the CORD top leadership unveiling their candidate to the Makueni electorates. CORD leaders Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka and Senate Minority Leader Moses Wetangula were this afternoon in Wote, Makueni County, to drum up support for the daughter of the late Mutula Kilonzo, Kathy Kilonzo. The CORD leadership, fresh from a losing general election in March this year, say the seat belongs to CORD and urge the residents of Makueni to elect Kethi come July 22nd.
Mutampigia Kethi kura. Mutampigia Kethi kura. Wacha inua waipa tuone.
Naomba sasa nimkaribishe msichana wetu ambaye tunamheshimu with the full blessings ya wazazi. Na mimi nataka nimshukuru stepmother wa Kethi Nduku kwa kukubali kwamba yeye pia atamuunga Kethi mkono.
Sasa tumeleta Kethi hapa na tunataka kukaa hapa Makueni tufanye historia, kuchagua msichana ya kwanza kuwa seneta katika bunge la Kenya. Mtafanya? Mtafanya?
Ndio baba.
Mimi nataka muonyeshe kwamba nyinyi bado mko CORD.
Kethi's candidature was not clear before today, as she had earlier indicated that she won't be seeking to succeed her late father after her stepmother showed interest in the same seat.
Kwa kweli siku ya leo mimi nimeingia nasari ya siasa. Nasari. Hii ndio siku yangu ya kwanza kuongea mbele ya umati mkubwa kama huu. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. Lakini mambo ya kisheria, mimi si wakili, mimi ni wakili mzuri tena sana. Sipitiki kisheria. Munieke kama kiongozi wenyu katika Senate Nairobi. Sawa? Mimi niko tayari kufanya kazi na viongozi wenyu. Mnawajua?
Ulimuona pale Supreme Court? Si alionyesha anaweza? Na kule Senate kuna kazi mingi. Na tulikuwa pale mawakili wakubwa kama Amos wako ambaye alikuwa Attorney General amekaa tu chini. Mutula Kilonzo anakaa chini. Na Orengo pia anakaa chini. Na kiboko yao alikuwa ni nani? Kiboko yao alikuwa ni nani? Na kwa hivyo tumekuja hapa na tukakataa kutangaza mambo haya Nairobi. Tukasema tunaletea wenyewe. Si nyinyi ndio wenyewe?
Several other candidates, including former members of parliament John Harun Mwau and Professor Philip Kaloki, are vying for the seat. If Kethi Kilonzo is elected on July 22nd to be the senator of Makueni, she will have written history by becoming the first woman elected senator in the history of Kenya. Aaron Ochieng, KTN, Makueni County.
Aaron Ochieng, thank you very much for that. Now, you are indeed watching KTN Prime, and before we take a break, teachers have remained adamant that the strike is still on from midnight tonight. And on our big question, we are asking you, should the 1997 teachers' salary agreement be declared null and void?
Well, there has been a new development now. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the Teachers Service Commission have ruled that the 1997 agreement has now become obsolete and a new agreement should be crafted. Let us know what you think by sending your small comment to 8040, and we will sample your views during the end of this bulletin. And of course, you can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Eric Njoka KTN, and at Linda Ogutu. We'll sample some of those just before we end this bulletin. You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you so much for staying with us. This far, we are taking a short break.
Thank you very much for staying with KTN. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, the International Criminal Court prosecutor Fatou Bensouda is set to appeal against a decision by the trial chamber to have Deputy President William Ruto exempted from full-time appearance during his trial at The Hague.
Bensouda wants Ruto to be present throughout the trial. Trial Chamber 5, following an application by Ruto's legal team, had partially agreed to excuse Ruto from full-time appearance at the trial, except during the opening, presentation of witness statements, documents, delivery of judgment and sentencing.
In her application, Bensouda argues that the decision by the trial chamber to allow Ruto to skip sessions on the basis that he holds the office of the Executive Vice President of a state affects the fair conduct of the trial, since the same does not apply to his co-accused.
Bensouda argues that if the trial is conducted largely in the absence of Ruto, the issue of whether the trial chamber had discretionary power to exempt an accused may be used as part of an appeal against an acquittal or conviction decision by that court. Right, let's cross over, and the South African presidency has announced that anti-apartheid icon Nelson Mandela has become critically ill. President Jacob Zuma, who visited Mandela in hospital, said doctors were doing everything possible to get Mandela's condition to improve. Doctors had told Zuma on Sunday that the former president's condition had worsened over the past 24 hours. 94-year-old Mandela has been in and out of hospital for the better part of the year with the lung infection. South Africans have been holding nationwide prayers for the iconic leader who led the anti-apartheid revolution in South Africa.
Well, following the airing of KTN's crime series Jaramandia la Uhalifu, featuring the fate of a former police officer and crime buster Daniel Songo Seronei, who single-handedly gunned down 3 of the most wanted criminals in Kenya's history, Rasta, Wanogo and Washosho, well-wishers are coming out to assist Seronei, who, despite his commendable efforts to fight crime, was betrayed by rogue elements within the force who shot him several times in an attempt to kill him. Although Seronei managed to recover from the ordeal, his life has never been the same since. Seronei is currently living with a bullet lodged in his chest. His plea to the police and government to help him undergo surgery to remove the bullet have hit the wall. Seronei, who was laid off after the shooting, was no means to raise the 1 million shillings required for the surgery. The former cop has appealed to the government to facilitate him undergo the surgery. Well-wishers have so far raised 70,000 shillings to assist Seronei. You can also send your money direct to his account, Daniel Songo. The account number is, get this, 085-0000-39950. That's Family Bank, Eldoret branch, or to his M-Pesa number, 0727-750602.
Mimi najua it's a bullet head. Hii imenisumbua, nimewapepea kutosha. Kama wangekuwa nasikia leo, tafadhali waone jinsi ambao watanitolea risasi yao wachukue. Because mimi nimepea baya kutosha.
The story of Daniel Seronei there. If you have missed his account number, that is at Family Bank, or his M-Pesa number, you can get all those details on our Facebook page at KTN, I think.
Yes, KTN Kenya, and also our Twitter page at KTN Kenya as well. And the number again is 085-0000-39950, and the M-Pesa number is 0727-7506.
And of course, later on, we will tweet the account number as well, and the M-Pesa number if you are in a position to help. And you're watching KTN Prime. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're taking a short break. I'll be back with the day's business news.
We are ready. We have said this is the father of all strikes. Even if it's going to take us 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, we are more than prepared this time. This is the 7th strike since 1997. And if the government cares, it better listen and act faster. And let us hope this is going to be the last strike by the teachers of this country.
Let's look at business now. Listed operator Safaricom has moved to cement its role in Kenya's quest for financial deepening with the launch of a new payment service. Dubbed Lipa na M-Pesa, the firm seeks to recruit 100,000 small and medium entrepreneurs to use the platform as a primary tool for payments.
Mobile money in Kenya has become part of the culture and is being used as one of the tools to deepen financial inclusion. With 2.5 trillion shillings having passed through M-Pesa, Safaricom is now looking for new ways to have mobile money the premier choice of transacting in the country.
We're not competing, because I know there's a question which is frequently asked. We don't compete with a bank in this space. We are competing with cash because it is safer, it is cheaper, and it's much more secure.
With the launch of the Lipa na M-Pesa service, the telecom company is targeting to increase the use of M-Pesa among micro and small traders across the country as it aims at tapping into the cash-based payment modes.
We want the Kibanda guy to say it's okay for our customers to pay for a plate of food via M-Pesa. In the end, we want M-Pesa to be celebrated not just because it's a clever product, but because it's a product that is giving practical solutions to everyone.
Users of this service will not incur any transaction cost, but a 1.5% commission will be charged to merchants offering the service.
Central Bank of Kenya data indicates that the country's financial inclusion rates now average between 75 and 8%, with mobile money at the heart of the success. Now, with 2.5 trillion shillings having passed through the M-Pesa platform, it is evident why Safaricom is keen to upscale its platform to access these huge volumes. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Now, in a bid to increase customer numbers as well as hit constant calls for low borrowing rates, Standard Chartered Bank has announced a drop in borrowing rates on its 4 key products. In a campaign dubbed the Grand Sale, Standard Chartered Bank is offering customers personal loans at a rate of 15.9%, mortgage bundles at 12.9%, auto loans at 14.9%, and SME US dollar loans at 6.5%. Speaking during the launch of the campaign, Head of Consumer Banking East Africa, Bartesh Shah, said the move was meant to open up products to more customers by making them more affordable and highly competitive. The Grand Sale will run for a limited period of 45 days, starting 25th of June and end on 8th of August. The move by the bank comes on the backdrop of a tongue lashing of the banks by Economic Secretary at the Treasury, Geoffrey Mwau. Mwau had indicated that low competition among banks was keeping the cost of loans high, denying borrowers the advantage that comes with falling of interest rates. Now, elsewhere, let's take a look at tourism in the country and see what the government is doing. And the government has launched an aggressive campaign to reposition Kenya as a top tourism destination and recover lost market share. The country is trying to regain its #1 tourism destination slot after increased competition, poaching, insecurity, and lack of diversification ate into its market share and left the country chasing after shadows. Among the measures proposed is a revival of the Ministerial Stakeholders Forum that will give players in the tourism sector a chance to air their grievances directly to the Cabinet Secretary. And in a bid to establish world-class service in the sector, the ministry will rein in the rogue tourism operators by listing all licensed operators on the ministry's website. Meanwhile, the Kenya Tourism Board will launch a global advertising campaign to market the country. It will also leverage on the growth of national carrier Kenya Airways to find new markets for the country's tourism products.
The recently unveiled Tourism Act is aimed at revitalizing and maximizing on the full potential of the sector in contributing to the country's economic growth. It is set to address a number of challenges which include emerging competition from other destinations, product diversification, and regulations of the industry, among other things.
We have recently signed a 1-year partnership agreement for marketing with Kenya Airways so that every new destination they are going to be launching, they now have 60, they're moving on to the 61st. We will also be working closely so that we can grow the pie from some of these destinations.
The growth of information communication technology among businesses is fast giving rise to new approaches among firms. This has seen a number leverage on those technologies to improve efficiency in their respective institutions. Locally, this has seen the annual CIO 100 Awards that recognize organizations and the people behind key ICT projects within companies and governments. This year's awards themed value creation through innovation is expected to attract over 300 participants across East Africa and will climax with the award gala to be held in Kigali, Rwanda from the 10th to 12th of July this year. Let's end this with a look at the financial markets review.
Time for sports. Now, Kenya Rugby Sevens coach Mike Friday has named a 12-member squad for the 2013 Russia Rugby World Cup. Andrew Amonde will retain the captain's armband in the star-studded squad that will rely on experienced brothers Humphrey Kayange and Collins Injera in the championship that begins this week.
Out of the 12 players named by coach Mike Friday, 10 were part of the Kenya squad in the final two IRB legs in Scotland and London. The team will greatly depend on the vast experience of Horace Otieno, Collins Injera, Humphrey Kayange, Lavin Asego and Biko Adema, as they were part of the 2009 squad that lost to Argentina in the semi-finals.
A coach goes to any game with his strategy, and that is why he's paid a lot of money. So he knows what he wants. Because as much as you have stakes, a coach have got higher stakes. So when you see a coach take one player instead of the other, I think you can only ask him that question after the games.
The team, which is currently in London attending a training camp, will proceed to Moscow on June the 25th. Kenya is placed in Pool C alongside Samoa, the Philippines and Zimbabwe, and they will open their account against the Philippines on the 28th of June.
In the World Cup, it's the youth who go there to make their names. And we all know Lavin has made his name. We know what Humphrey can do. But a youngster like William Baka, he wants to be the World Player of the Year.
The squad also includes Patrice Agundo of Kenya Harlequins, Mwamba's Lavin Asego, and 2012-2013 RB Sevens World Player of the Year nominee William Mbaka. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.
Now, the controversy surrounding the Ingwe TV deal between AFC Leopards and pay TV providers Zuku has taken a new twist, with Zuku now challenging Kenya Premier League and SuperSport to submit their contract for legal interpretation before a court of law or to an independent arbitrator for evaluation and ruling. And while boardroom wrangles over the deal continues to escalate, some aspirants are pleading with the Kenya Premier League to give the club more time as they go through a transition period.
But as aspirants, we are not in the office, but on our voice is to please, to pray that these bodies can give AFC Leopards time during this transition time, so that voters and the anxiety or the tension which is amongst the supporters that the club will be suspended. We just pray and we are asking, please, if they can give us at least this week.
KPL to give us time, maybe 2 weeks. Then whoever will come on board after 29th, they can sit down and sort out the issues, because the club is more important than anybody.
Now, Thika United remain at the league summit despite losing 2 valuable points against Western Steamer at their backyard on Saturday. Bandari's 2013 league fairy tale continues as they are only 2 points adrift the league leaders, who have a game in hand. Gor Mahia, who left Naivasha unscathed against Karuturi Sports, are third on 21 points and could frog jump Thika United if they win their 3 games in hand. Sofapaka have played 14 matches and are parched at position 4, same points as third place Gor Mahia and fifth place Ulinzi Stars. The military side have inferior goal difference at the bottom tier of the log. Homeboys remain rooted at the basement with only a single win in their 14 outings. Muhoroni Youth are 4 points above the Kakamega-based side, same points as Karuturi Sports, who are all fighting relegation battle. Sony Sugar are 14th from 14 matches with 15 points, with Mathare United, the 2008 league winners, wallowing at the lower log of the league that entered its penultimate period this past weekend. It's a wrap. And before we say goodnight, we had asked you in our big question, should the 1997 teachers' salary agreement be declared null and void? Let's read some of your feedback here. Zach Mbuthia, you say, perfectly so. 1997, that still is now analog. We need another digital agreement for teachers.
Olo Frank says the 1997 deal should be relooked at in view of the current economic realities.
Patrick Kabui, you say, I do not see any solid ground for declaring it null and void. Let the agreement be fulfilled.
Mora says a promise is a debt. Can't the government just pay our teachers? Members of Parliament have increased their salaries threefold since 1997. Well, those are your comments on our big question tonight. We thank you for writing in and for being part of KTN Prime. Sleep well. I'm Linda Ogutu.
And I'm Eric Njoka. Good night.